Greetings everybody, and it is Brendan recording from the UK, and it's been a while since a video update or anything on the channel. It's just been a while. I've had a long lengthy break and time to think about a lot of things, and in the process of wondering if I was coming back or not. I have put the request in almost 2 weeks ago, but I can understand if they're busy. So there is something that I need to talk about in today's video, and there is something that I keep on seeing in the last few weeks regarding Autcraft and what's been happening for a lot of people. Just to quote, there is no names or anything like that going to be mentioned in this video, and I'm not choosing sides. Don't think that I'm trying to justify any kind of side at all, and just hear me out, because what I've got to say is pretty important, and I would really appreciate you just listening to me. I just noticed that wasn't right. So, a lot of the older players have been quite cross at the fact that the server hasn't been up to the expectation. You felt like your voices weren't heard, and you felt like you've not been listened to, and then that's leading to complaints, and there's fights going on, and I can understand the perspective of the admins, where they've got quite a big job of watching the server. Now, their main priority, guys, on this server is to keep kids safe. I know it says to keep everybody safe. It is to keep everybody safe, but there is some there as young as 6 years old, if not even younger now. So we've got to be careful, guys, especially when we're going on the forums and saying these things about these admins that are not, as you're saying, they're not fair. I do understand the argument. I do think the admins need to start opening up about some of the things, how things are being dealt with, and certain things are being kept. But then at the same time, why should admins share this with certain individuals? Whether they're 20 years old, 50 years old, or 6 years old, in their eyes, that doesn't matter. So the disciplinary is not really our concern. The only concern we have is to play and to enjoy the game. And I know it sucks. I know, and I was at that position as well. But you must listen to what I'm trying to say. That nobody's always right 100% of the time. That is absolutely ridiculous. And if you come in here telling me you're right 100% of the time, go out, because that is not right. That is not correct. You'll never ever be 100% right all the time. You could be doing a job for over 40 years and something will change, and something will always cloud your judgment. So don't always assume you're going to be right. Just because you've been at it for goodness knows how many years, that doesn't matter. And I'm making this point because I've had this argument with my parents before, and I've been there before. They're not always right. I'm sorry. I can understand they have more experience. Yes, tick. I'm willing to listen. But if you're willing to listen to my approach to the situation, I might be able to add something else to it. So what I'm trying to do, I'm not just trying to say forgive the admins. I want the admins to forgive the players and to start doing that thing, and just to start being honest with each other. Not like you're not honest at all or anything like that. I do genuinely think you're being honest, but I think the expectation there for certain individuals is quite high. But I cannot speak for a person when we haven't seen the full argument. I cannot sit here and say this person was unfairly judged and they were banned for no reason. How do we know that? You only saw what you saw. How do you know that was all there is? And you know that if someone is banned or removed from the whitelist, like myself, there was a reason for it. There is a reason why we were removed, because there is a problem. We're endangering the server, and let's not forget, I asked to be removed. I didn't get removed without choice. but it did have to be, it had to be done. But what I'm getting at is it's really important for all sides to understand we are still a community. Yes, I'm not part of that community at the moment. I'm not on there every day. I don't see what happens every day. I don't hear the arguments that you have every day. At the end of the day, guys, some of you are teenagers, and this server is dedicated to young children and their families, but it is also dedicated to people my age and older. And we're welcome to come whenever we please, but Stuart has to maintain this barrier that just can't be crossed, because that we can't put things into perspective for a 20-year-old man like myself justified with a 6-year-old. There is no comparison with that. You've just got to play by the rules, and there is only so much the admins can do. And I understand it may seem unjustified. I'm not going to say their actions were correct. I'm not going to say they were wrong, because I don't know what's happened. Neither do you, by the looks of it. So if we can all just sort of back off a little bit, give the admins a bit of slack, give each other the space, the time, the love. Where all this love has come from in all this time on Autcraft, start showing it again. Don't be so critical on each other. I've seen this for a few weeks now, and I can't help but sit by and watch it keep on happening. It's frustrating for me. That is just not how I operate. I just must get my word out there that I'm not taking sides. I just want people to understand perspective. At the same time, it may seem unjustified, it may seem it's not appropriate that person was removed from the whitelist. We don't know the full story, right? I am a care worker, so just hear me out here. I am a care worker. You may not seem that as anything at all. My job comes with great responsibility. I have safeguarding to take into consideration, which is safeguarding for vulnerable adults, so people who can be in serious jeopardy. They can be in serious trouble. I've got to make sure I'm doing my job as an employee for the housing agency, for the care team, that I am responsible, on the ball. I've got to make sure everybody, so that is the staff. The staff is more, though, towards assistant managers and managers, but still the well-being of the residents, the well-being of children, and the well-being of the customers and visitors that come in and come out. My job is to make sure everybody on the floor is appropriately, I just realised this, everybody is appropriately well treated, and everything is okay and as it should be. And I know for a fact, with my job, I've got to administer medication, I've got to follow company law, policy, I've got to follow the law of the government in regarding to medication policies. I've got to make sure I adhere to safety rules, health and safety rules, the guidelines that come with health and safety. I know it all sounds like legislation, and it is. There's a lot of legislation in my job than there is at a lot of care homes. My job's a little bit more than that, because I'm trained in medication, and when you're dealing with medication, that's a serious thing, and it can have serious side effects. So I know that. So my job comes with great responsibility. So as an employee, as a person at that level of responsibility, I know how it sits, and I know how this is being run. I understand that. I understand it on a manager's perspective. I understand it on an admin's perspective. I see how and why it's operating the way it's operating. You're not going to change my opinion on anything, and they wouldn't want you to do that anyway. It's just, yeah, they are going to get a bit frustrated when you're questioning the rules, because often when we're growing up, we're trying to push past those rules and push the boundaries and do those things, which is natural part of growing up. But there is a line you can't cross when it comes to certain rules in place to look after people. And when it says, "Oh, this rule's stupid," and I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. That is just petty. You've got to understand the perspective of the children. There are children playing on there, as young as 6 years old, and I used to forget it as well. I got so involved in the community, I was around people my own age, and I thought, well, that's it. I thought I knew everything there was, and I didn't. I still don't know everything there is. It would be impossible, especially at my age. But I just know with my experience as a trained carer, with my mistakes as an adult who's lived through depression and everything like that for me, I can truly open up and tell you what's going on. And hopefully, just hopefully, you'll listen. I'm not going to convince you to listen in any way. I just want everybody to understand the level they're at. Remember, there's only a few admins left. And whoever's fault that is, whoever you want to blame it, whether it's the owner, or whether it's their fault, or whether it's the players, or whether it's Autcraft dying, it's probably none of those things. But just things happen, and people have their own lives, and they can't be doing an admin job at the same time, especially if they're a parent. That is a really difficult thing to do. I'm not a parent myself. I know people who are parents personally. I know a lot of people who've got children, and I've met their children, and they tell me the same things, and I can see how difficult it is as a parent. I can never sit in their position without having a kid, but I do know that must be really difficult for them. I can't claim to know what it's like, but I can have a good idea it must be very difficult. So you've got to support people. You've got to support the admins. You can't be doing with criticism. If you keep on knocking a boulder. See, if you see a boulder or something and you get a pickaxe and you hit it once, it's got a dint in it. You hit it again, it's got another dint in it. If you keep on hitting this boulder, it's going to keep getting worse. And it's taking Autcraft the wrong way. It's not taking it the way it should be going. They were thriving, they still are thriving, and if people just start hitting this boulder, it's going to start to chip, and it's going to start having its faults. And that is just not how Autcraft should be. People being like that. I worked in an environment like that for 10 months. I worked in an environment where they were picking at every little thing that I did wrong. That was incredibly hurtful to me, because they were going on behind my back saying things, then they were claiming I've done certain things, then I was in trouble for safeguarding, and everything else that came with it. Sexual harassment I got into trouble for. There's a lot of things I've been accused for, and I've been accused for a lot of other things as well. It's got quite serious for me, but they're not problems I've caused. And I've been in that position that people can be like that. I have met difficult people, and I'm sure I'll meet them 100 times again, because there's plenty out there, guys. And I tell you another thing, there are plenty of places worse than Autcraft. I can tell you that for a fact. You've not been, well, you might have been, but I have been to a server that's full of bullies and trolls. They're swearing at each other. Someone's asking for help. Nobody cares. And I actually intervene and say, are you alright? Is there something you want me to do? Or is there anything I can do to help? That isn't there on a lot of servers. And you have to understand Stuart's perspective. He has never done this before. He's only done it for so many years. He's not a trained professional. He's only going off what he knows, and through advice, through counselling, which is how I remember things, and how I learned to cope with things is my counselling. And it's those tactics, those tips that we get given to learn how to cope with ourselves, then we can start to help other people. But this, I don't like seeing so much negativity around the server. It's not It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate to call the admins lazy and things like that, because whether you think they're lazy or not, the admins are not being paid to do this job. They have got a hefty job to do, and they have a lot to live up to. They have an awful lot they have to rise to. And yes, of course, they've got a certain thing they've got to say at a certain time. I know it doesn't seem like a genuine thing, but I do know how that sits. I do know what I have to do as a carer. It doesn't mean I don't care. I am really passionate about my job. I am a good carer. I'm hands-on. I do it. And that is the important thing that I need other people to learn. That is important. Is whether or not it's scripted or not, or you're reading off a sheet, you have to be genuine about that. You have to be genuine about your feelings. And I know the admins are. They won't be genuine 100% of the time, because no one can do that. No one can do that. It's impossible. You have to take a break from now and then, and it's okay. It's okay to take a break. It's fine. Just go for a break and come back, and you might find you'll feel a bit better. But don't take it out on the players, don't take it out on the admins, and don't take it out on the staff, and don't take it out on the founder. Me returning has nothing to do with unfair advantage or unfair... They're probably just busy. You know? There's only a few admins left on the server, so cut them a bit of slack. You know what I'm saying? So just remember that we are a community. We do mean a lot to each other, and while I'm not on there at the moment doing things like I usually do and saying things and helping and doing building and what I normally do, when I return, I'm going to be returning only for a short amount of time. And I don't mean lengthy time, I mean as in only a certain amount of times a week I'll be coming on. I don't want to make it an obsessive thing again. It won't. But to tell you the truth, guys, this is how it's going to come out. I'm growing up. So there's that. That's the important thing. I'm growing up. You're all growing up. You're learning how the rules work. And sometimes the rules don't always sit right. Just remember, the rules are not really set for you. Even though he says it's set for everybody, it's just to put it on an even level with everybody. It is true, it is to protect everybody, but more so for the younger players, because those are so important. You know what I mean? I know you guys are important as well, but it's important that the children also get as much as well. So just remember that. And start being nice to each other again. But if this hobby is causing you a problem, causing you a lot of upset, I suggest you go for a break and reconsider the things that you're saying. You'll only make it worse for yourself, and it's only going to be you that's going to suffer for it. And I don't want you to. I want you guys to understand that is how it is. And unfortunately, if you don't like it, you've got to walk. You can't be saying these things, especially to these admins who have worked so hard, and then call them lazy and things like that. This isn't an attack at a specific person. I know it sounds like it is because that person said it. It isn't an attack at that person. So emphasize on that. It's not an attack on you. It's an attack on it's not an attack. It's a general thing for everybody. It's a thing everybody needs to know. I just bring up lazy as an example, so don't think I'm doing that just to be a nuisance. I do understand where you're coming from. I get both sides. But when people start shouting, it gets that, and it gets that, and it gets that, and it gets that, and it keeps on rising, and then boom, nobody's listening. And Stuart said himself in a post, he said, if you're going to start saying these hurtful things and these certain things and you know, and saying these things, and this is directed to way more than 2 people, way more than 5. This is to everybody. If you're directing these things to an admin or something, why should they be more inclined to help you when you're not being very nice? That is just not how the universe works. You don't stamp your foot and say, this isn't on. Of course you stand your ground. I've had to stand my ground when things have not gone right at work, and I've told them, no, this is how it is. It's not right, and I tell you to check again. That's how I am. And I understand. That is how I am. But at the same time, you've got to understand the rules. So I am rambling now. I don't want to keep going on about this. I do hope everyone understands where I'm coming from. I just could not sit back and see this happening over and over and over again, week in, week out, monthly. There's always something happening every month. And if it's becoming such a problem, go and take a break. And I know it's easier said than done to take a break from a place like that, because it's a very nice place. But it's not doing you any favours getting you like this. And it's not doing the admins any favours. So just remember. So, peace be with you, and all the best. And I've got high hopes for all of you. So I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now, guys.